everybody. Welcome to the November 11th edition of Trips and Traps, the Veterans Day Trips and Traps. And I'm Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
Yeah, we got a lot of races to bring you in two separate segments. A lot of turf racing, so we're hopeful that these horses will run back at least once more on the grass. Still kind of early in November, so I think a lot of these guys will be looking forward to trying to run back. And one of those horses I'm hoping runs back is the 5, Big Jerome, from the 7th race on Wednesday. Big Jerome breaks okay. It's a horse that usually goes up front toward the lead, and that's exactly where he goes in this spot here. But Urban Flight, the number 7 horse, is going to clear him off going into the turn here, and Urban Flight's going to be taken in hand and put back behind horses here. And this is kind of I wanted to show this race for a number of different reasons. I thought it was kind of a dynamics race with horses making wide sweeping moves on the second turn, really dominating the race, and horses that were up close to the pace kind of falling apart.
Yeah, on the other hand, I guess you could say a logical horse won the race. A long shot was second. This was not that fast a pace. It's a mile race. I know the course has obviously taken a lot of beating so far, especially the weather we've had all fall. They went 23.91 the first quarter. Well, you know, they're going on a straightaway most of that quarter. These are okay horses. Big Jerome is more of a free-running horse. And I think for him to have just easily given up the lead in this race, and I wonder if he's a little better around the one turn at Belmont, these around 2 turns. And it is hard to win wiring fields, and it's something that's going to come up later during Trips and Traps. But you wonder if Big Jerome's particularly happy with the way the race is developing for him.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, you'd have to say he's got a perfect trip. He's right in behind 2 speed horses. He saves ground all the way. He looks fairly comfortable. He's not throwing his head around or anything here. But, you know, as we move around the second turn, I think the race the way the race is unfolding really takes a different shape here. You see the number 6 horse here, Park the Princess, who's going to run second in the race at 19-1. He starts to make a 3-wide move. The winner, Adagio, makes a 4-wide move, and even out farther, the third-place finisher, Forever My Friend, is going to finish third here, making a 5-wide move. So these sweeping horses really had an edge in this race, I think, and we see the inside horse, Big Jerome, kind of getting back to 5th. Now, I don't know if he just wasn't comfortable being down inside, or if the jock thought, you know, he wasn't traveling that well, or if he just had traffic. But in either case, you know, Prado just kind of gets to him where he's got to get him, and really doesn't able to finish up on him all that well. And we see the 2 horses kind of spurting away from the field here.
Yeah, well, it's a question of sometimes horses getting jammed in on the inside. It's not even being jammed on the inside. Riders overcommitting to the inside, and then before they know it, you watch where Big Jerome was in the turn, and the whole field had backed up in his face. I mean, he was back there with Rogue Victory, who was getting ready to commence his rally, and Rogue Victory was closer than he really wants to be, and Big Jerome is there inside of him. He just never had any position to win the race. I don't know. It's a question. Maybe he's got some problems. Maybe he has some issues the way he drifted back. We'll see if and when he comes back. He may be a horse you're waiting for in Florida.
All right, we'll get on to our second race, also another turf race. We're going to take a look at the 2 Bay Street Bully. This is the 9th race from Thursday, and Bay Street Bully is going to kind of fall victim to the pace here and a wide trip. I always love it when the horse breaking from the inside post gets the widest trip of them all.
Yeah, you know, it is. But I think in the defense of Javier Castellano, try to sort of ease him off the rail a little here, and unfortunately it doesn't really work out because going to that sharp turn at Aqueduct, the horse who ends up inside of him bears out a little bit and carries him out. And this was an odd race because you have a horse, and you look at this race right now, and normally if you said, what happens in this race, you'd say, I don't know, that gray horse is loping along the lead. Well, he's going to finish about 8th. But he also happened to be the favorite and the best horse in the race, and you can see Bay Street Bully being pushed out 3-4 wide in the first turn of the Pink Silks.
Yeah, dynamics-wise, you would think this race, you know, the pace setters are going to come back to you here, and especially, you know, the second horse, too, Vetriano, who's well clear of the rest of the pack there. He's going to hold on for second, too. So it's a race totally dominated by pace in here, and, you know, they're able to slow it down on the backstretch here. Market Cat, Channing Hill did a nice job with this horse here. It looked like he was just going to get away and go too fast, but he's able to slow it down here, kind of catching the rest of the field, catches up a little bit in here. Vetriano still holding second position here, but we see Bay Street Bully in about the 4 path, and he's going to be widest of all as they move toward the half-mile pole and go into the second turn.
Yeah, he ran fine in here. And, you know, Vetriano, to me, is the real victim, in my opinion, in some ways, because the times he's run well in New York, he's faced these situations where a horse either backed down the pace or a better horse's lone speed, and he was the lone attacker and ran well. Bay Street Bully did run well in this race, and you can see right here he's like 4 wide, second tier of horses going out to 5 wide in the Pink Silks, and he does run well. I think Vetriano was second best in this race. Bay Street Bully ran better than the other suck-up horses. The problem is, what race is he going to get that he's going to be able to clunk up into?
No, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think later on in the season here, as some of the better turf horses either get a break or they head down to Florida, the races get a little bit softer, especially, as if we're running on the turf come, the first week of December while we're on the inner track. This is a horse that if he gets a little bit more of a, a pace scenario in front of him where the speed horses may not be quite as good, he can really rally and get the job done in a race.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a feeling, though, these horses are getting one more chance. So we'll see what happens, what that chance is. We're going to switch back to the main track for our final race of this segment. And the main track was very, very biased. I think Friday, Saturday, even into Sunday, to inside speed. We're watching the horse that won, Have You Ever? And I want to say the first thing that happens that's good for him is there was a lot of speed on paper. Number 3, Tam Suk, who was one of the main speeds, he got left and stayed back after the start. And that gave clear sailing for Have You Ever to get over the fence. It also meant the pace was a lot slower than it figured to be because it looked like a lot of pace on paper. So you've got a horse getting an easy lead over to the inside on a track favoring that kind of runner, who's also getting a big pace advantage to boot, who might have won even on a fair racetrack. You've got Banking Holiday, this sort of odd favorite in this race, forced to chase 3 wide, close to the pace than he wants to be and close to the pace than he expected to be because it looked like there was so much more speed. And even Mr. Universe, who could have had more speed, but he expected to be tracking a fast pace when it didn't develop. He's sitting in what would be a good spot if there was a fast pace. Instead, he's 4 wide chasing. I want the wide chasers. I cannot wait to bet against Have You Ever, who's going to have a big fig and a big, huge victory. He's dressed up by dynamics and bias.
We'll see what happens with Have You Ever next time out, but certainly he's not going to get things any easier than he did in this spot here today, drawing off to win this race by 8 1/4, really at the top of the stretch. You think he's going to win easily, and he does. And to prove Andy's point here is the fact that Tam Suk, the horse down inside, holds on for second. The inside chasers did okay. The outside chasers faded, and Banking Holiday and Mr. Universe finished 7th and 8th. So I think, Andy, you have a very good point there that you want the outside chasers in this race as the inside speed horses ran one too.
Yeah, I'm wondering about Mr. Universe, if he can show up in a kind of an interesting spot where some of his prior form makes him look good. The point of this is, I think, much more than anything else, is take a look at races from Friday and Saturday and even Sunday. Look at how they were run. Look for some outside wide horses. Lower the performances of the horses that wire the field, like Have You Ever. I can't wait to bet against him next time. Does it for this episode of Trips and Traps. Of course, once again, trips and traps at NYRAinc.com. We love hearing your comments. We appreciate your suggestions. We're happy you watched.
And come on back for the second segment.